more often than not, when it feels like the world is against you, like you can't catch a break and everything goes wrong and you don't know what to do, it's usually because there's something much deeper going on underneath the surface.
And we want to get what's underneath the surface there and bring it out so that you actually can feel capable when you have this feeling come to you, because we know what it's like when it does feel like the world's against you, and the sheer terror that comes in when that's here.
Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
Welcome back, Evolvers. It's Emilia. Episode 485, Why It Feels Like the World is Against You. Bianca, talk to us. What do we got for this episode?
A couple of weeks ago, I started with a new client and I was very nervous starting with this client because he is obviously keeping confidentiality, but like he's a very shy, insecure, very anxious 18-year-old boy. And I have found that I have a hard time with clients like that because it's like pulling teeth to get them to talk and to be able to open up. And it's just uncomfortable. It just is what it is. But my go-to is, or my learned response has been, this is a really good learning opportunity for me. How can I learn from this? How can I become a better clinician from this? So we're a couple of sessions in. We're having these conversations. I'm pulling teeth trying to get this poor kid to talk because he's like the most like anxious person ever. He's like biting his fingers throughout the session. He like is like starstruck every time we get on the call because he's just so like not used to talking about himself.
Yeah.
And he's over the last couple of sessions, he's finally starting to feel safe and he's opening up a little bit more, and we're diving into his life and his past and so on and so forth. And we start talking about the holidays.
Oh, man.
and we got before the holidays, before the last session that I had with him, he was telling me that he's really nervous about the holidays and about Christmas because he's had a history with his family where he's the youngest. His middle child sister is the problem child, quote unquote.
Okay.
Screaming matches and loud arguments and fights, and there's always a big blow up, and it's just this really big ordeal all the time. And I'm asking him about it. And I was like, has it always been like that? What has your life been like? Kind of give me a little bit of more background information, so on and so forth. And my heart broke for him. He's always been someone who never really had friends. He was bullied in school and he was bullied growing up. He felt really unseen and slightly unwanted at home too, because he was the youngest child and he was very quiet, and his sister and his older brother were a lot older than him, so they got a lot of the attention and so on and so forth. And we're unpacking this, and it's like, you ever in a session with a client and you can just see the sadness in their eyes of like, this has just been so awful. And I'm seeing that, and I'm seeing him talk about it, and he's like, I've just always felt like the world has been against me.
Yeah.
I've always felt like no matter what, I'm just not going to be capable of things, and everyone is going to have to swoop in and save me and rescue me. And I've just learned to not even put myself out there anymore. I don't really try. I don't I'm afraid to speak up for myself. I'm afraid to ask for things. Going to college was the first time that I had ever actually been on my own, ever asking for anything, ever having to navigate myself. And I had a massive breakdown and a crisis because I couldn't do it. I didn't feel capable. So I had to move back home. So we're having this conversation, and what I said to him was, I think there's a deeper issue that's going on here. This isn't just family dynamic stuff. This isn't just that you're like awkward. This isn't just you're not capable. This is massive fear that you have of yourself and the world, and your terrifying fear of what's going to happen when I finally use my voice and speak up for myself. Because what I learned throughout my entire life was that my voice doesn't matter. Nobody's going to hear me, and nobody cares. So just keep the peace,
heartbreaking.
Be quiet, and don't say anything. Now, my heart broke for him. Number one, obviously, seeing someone go through that is just terrible. And you can see it all over him. Like
his body posture, probably a slouch. I can see him.
He's never once in his life felt confident, ever. Low self-worth, low self-esteem, no confidence, no self-belief. So he's felt like a victim his whole life. And I know so deeply what that's like, because I very much thought I was, and therefore acted like a victim for the first 25 years of my life. Realistically, 28, but that's neither here nor there. If you are someone who right now, it sincerely feels like the world is consistently against you, like no matter what you do, it doesn't matter, nothing's going to work out for you, it's never going to go in your favor. What we are going to be diving into today is that the reason that might be the case, and one of the things that might be maintaining and perpetuating that, is because you learned not to use your voice. You learned not to step up for yourself, and you learned that no matter what you do, it's not going to matter. You basically cultivated learned helplessness.
Yeah. Whoa. So when someone experiences, and I think, a couple different ways I want to approach this. First of all, if you're in that experience, that is really, it's hard to put together the words that I think heartbreaking is a really great way to access that compassion and put together the words. And I also know that someone that's in that state or is really feeling that, the last thing that they want is, quote unquote, to be pitied, right? They don't want to feel like someone saying that that's heartbreaking. Oh, poor me, poor you, like none of that. And if you are in that state, or you find yourself after listening to this episode, you might find yourself in that kind of the world is against me mindset. And now this young man is 18 years old. But I, Bianca, from the vantage point that I'm holding, is there's people that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s that I've heard find themselves in that state. So it's not an 18-year-old from this kind of background standpoint. This is a human challenge that more often we will find ourselves at one point or another in our life. And whether that be because of circumstances, whether that because we have found something that is underneath the surface that has been cultivating. I love that word that you used for a long time, and rears its ugly head when all of a sudden you don't get the job that you want, or you don't get the promotion, or you don't, quote unquote, life doesn't go your way. It's so easy to look back at all of the evidence that showcases that exact pattern. And it's exponentially harder to look back at any given time. This is hindsight bias 101. any given time where things have gone your way and when the world wasn't against you. But when you have that pervasive feeling, that fear truly seeping into your nervous system, it's like reaching every single corner of your nervous system. What are the chances that you are going to learn on your own accord, especially when you're in an environment, and what it sounds like in this man's case, a family and family roles and family systems, which are creating the environment for said conditions to continue to seep in, right? As opposed to challenge it, that on his own accord, he would quote unquote break that cycle of learned helplessness, right? What are the odds? It sounds like in his family, he plays a very important role to maintain the dysfunction that's happening, which on his own accord, he would never acknowledge, because that is really terrifying. When you feel like the world is against you, the last thing that you want, or you have been taught, it's not like this want is going to come to fruition, but you have not been taught to want to take a standpoint of agency and self-advocacy in your own life. And so you're not going to, quote unquote, cultivate that want, that need to break out of those roles, to break out of that dysfunction in your system at large that's cultivating this feeling, but then internally as well. And so that's where I have extreme empathy and sympathy for individuals that do find themselves in that, because I see it as such a systems problem, the family system being the biggest issue. And then, and this is where the conversation that I have to hold, at what point in time, when you are aware of how painful that is, when you are aware of your own thoughts of how you feel like the world is against you, and that becomes the only story, the only narrative that you hear, at what point in time is it your responsibility as a human being to go take advantage of the help that is accessible to you? So for example, in his case, at what point do you not hold him responsible, because I don't want that kind of being put on someone who has been victimized of a dysfunctional family system, but rather invite this individual into a more empowered stance within their life so that they aren't continuing to play out the dysfunction that was planted within him and his role in his family from the very beginning. So talk to us, how did you go from, well, I guess we don't really know where this individual is right now. And I want to understand, as someone who is focused in on cognitive behavioral therapy, what is the first thing that you would go into once you realize that this fear is true and here, and you shared that with him? Where did you navigate from there? And specifically, I want you to use that as an example so that anyone that is experiencing this, they can take the principle that we're reviewing in this episode, and they can maybe use that as the life raft for where they're at right now. Because they might not have a therapist who is able to quite literally go to the root cause analysis. Like you did a root cause analysis and went immediately to the root of the fear.
Yeah.
And now there's a ton of branches and a ton of connections to that allow that fear to be nurtured and cultivated. But not everyone has a great and exceptional therapist that goes immediately to the root and is able to then build a ladder out of something that is so blatantly obvious to you and I. So where did you go from there? And what can people who are feeling this way really use as a life vest or a life raft to kind of start to begin to paddle out of the vortex of that self-cultivation of learned helplessness and victimhood?
I haven't had a session with him since then. He canceled the last session that we were supposed to have, and I haven't seen him since. So I haven't seen him for like well over a month. So I haven't seen him since that initial conversation. So I can't speak on what I did, but I can speak on what I will do and what I have done personally and with other clients. So I wanted to use myself as an example, but actually, you know what? I am going to use myself as an example, and I'm going to add this caveat. Okay. Before Emilia and I jumped on this call, I said to Emilia that I understand what it's like being in this position because I was very much a learned helplessness. I'm going to self-handicap myself because I believe that's the only way I'm ever going to get love mindset. So there's a little bit of a nuance between me and other people because I unconsciously did it intentionally and not, it wasn't like that's who I naturally was based on like family systems and whatnot. So the caveat that I'm going to add here and what Emilia said was the way that you approach feedback is very different than a lot of people. And that was
Your relationship
learned.
to feedback. Yeah. Yeah.
That was learned. And that is something that you can learn with a really good therapist. And I have my clients learn how to do that. Like when we're working together, I had a session this morning. I jumped into a session with a client and I immediately started off by saying, hey, I need to talk to you about something. I owe you a really big apology. And she was like, what? I was like, yeah, our last session, I don't like how I approached it. Honestly, I don't like the way that the session went. Like it was valuable, yeah, but like I don't know. I feel icky about it. Like, are you open to us having a conversation about it? And in that moment, I was demonstrating to this client, oh, you mean it's okay to like talk about things? It's okay to bring things up. It's okay to want feedback and ask for feedback and be okay in a circumstance like that. So like
Yeah.
that was obviously one example, but I do this with clients all the time where it's like taking feedback is safe. Nothing bad's going to happen here. Nothing wrong is going to happen here. Like I want you to tell me. I want you to tell me if you're not happy with something. I want you to tell me if you don't like something. I want you to tell me if, you know, there's challenges that are coming up because I need you to see that in a safe, healthy relationship, you're not going to get thrown out and cast to the wind for talking about the realities of what's going on with you. We'll have an adult conversation about it. I will help you feel safe enough to have the dialogue and we'll move forward and we'll make whatever necessary changes. So this is something that I actively teach clients how to do is get comfortable taking feedback, get comfortable accepting responsibility for how you're navigating the world. Now, am I perfect? No, I mess up all the time. It's part of being a human. But like, demonstrate that. Let it be okay. And then you show other people that it's okay. So my clients now, a lot of them are like, hey, yeah, I did this. I'm not happy about it. And I'm like, oh, cool. Let's dive into it. What'd you do? And they've gotten comfortable sharing those things. So that's part number one. When you have safe people who can show you that it's okay to take feedback and that like asking for it, nothing bad's going to happen to you, that's step number one. Step number two, what I did for myself and what I did for clients. Now, granted, I didn't do this for myself. I had amazing coaches and therapists guide me through this. So step number two was exposure therapy. Just to put it very succinctly, gain experiences over time to show yourself that you can do things, that the world is not against you. You have autonomy, you have abilities, you have capabilities. But when you go from everything is done for me, I have no voice, I'm not allowed to have a voice, the idea of having a voice is so taboo to me, I don't even think about it. Like it's not even a thought in my mind. You're not going to do these things. So the ability to slowly, gradually over time gain experiences in other areas of your life that are less fearful, that are less related to your trauma, and then you systematically increase the challenges and the circumstances that you're entering into, you eventually start to learn, oh, I can do hard things. I have agency. I have autonomy. Yeah, circumstances might happen, but I can handle it. It's not that the world is against me and there's nothing that I can do. Challenges happen because that is life. Life is suffering. And I have all the resources and the resourcefulness within me to get resources to do something different.
The only thing that I'll add with that from what I've seen when this feeling becomes a pervasive belief,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I feel like the world is against me is a statement that is an expressive feeling, right? So a thought combined with emotions, physiological sensations. And if this is a sentiment that quote unquote hangs over you like a dark cloud, eventually that runs in your mind enough times, it becomes that quote unquote standard operating thought, an SOT that when you feel uncomfortable or when you feel XYZ, right? When there is an emotion, let's refer to that emotion as X, then this thought, the standard operating thought, gets engaged. So when I feel sad or when I feel fear, this thought, the world is against me, is now a deeper belief that one is holding after circumventing it through one's system again and again and again, and only looking for the evidence that supports that thought, which then again and again, the CBT triad, right? The thought then continues to generate more emotion, that continues to generate a behavior that maybe has you speak less, not advocate, right? And therein lies the cycle. The thing that I would add to this is really making sure that anyone who feels this way or believes this way in a temporary or long-term state, it's really critical to gain proximity from that thought. Meaning, when that thought or that feeling arises within you and you actually do name it, and let's say, for example, you're tracking that pattern, that cycle, and you're also recognizing the parts of you that are very deeply responsible for making sure that that pattern, that thought, that feeling continues to happen, aka the learned helplessness, aka the cultivation of this being your actual reality. More often than not, you're going to have a part of you that whenever you're trying to be shown alternative evidence to what you have only known and what you have self-cultivated within you, that part is going to be really active to try to make sure that you don't find alternative evidence. You do not feel capable. You do not recognize how resourceful you are. And so I want to name that directly, because if I'm not naming that directly, I think anyone with this episode would take it for face value and then have this experience that I know to be true with clients in this situation, where then all of a sudden they say, okay, well, why is this not working? One of the reasons that's not working is because you're not gaining proximity, meaning distance to that thought. You're totally fused with that thought being the only reality. So one of the helpful thought challenging techniques that I found to be helpful with individuals that are feeling this way, or they believe this, and this has been a belief that they've carried their whole lives as a result of their circumstances, the way in blah, 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 right? It is to really challenge that thought and say, what else could be true? What else could be true in the situation? What else might I have to show me an alternative reality, that the world isn't out to get me, or that there is a world that is rooting for me? And so there's a client, Bianca, that's coming to mind. You might know her, where she at one point said to me something along the lines of, I don't know how to do that, right? A classic, I don't know how to do that comes forward. And I had said to her, I said, and this client and I have a really great relationship. So the feedback loop is really open, really green, and adore this woman. And I had said, very bluntly, now we've been working together for quite some time. So obviously we have this relationship established to where she has given me permission, and I might add, where I called her out on her BS. BS meaning her belief system. And yes, the belief system was bullshit. She said, Emilia, I don't know how to do this. I need X, Y, and Z, which is awesome. Like this woman, when I first met her, she would never say any of those things to that explicit demeanor, to that nature. And when she said this, I can imagine that her parts had this feeling of the world to some degree feels against me, or to some degree that this is always like insert narrative. And I said to her, to some extent or another, I don't fully believe that that narrative is true. You want to know why? Do you want to know why? And she, in her loving desire of feedback, had said, she was open. She didn't say, yes, Emilia, I straight up want to know why. But she was like, I do. I need to know. I need to know. You've always been right.
Is this me?
You may or may not know her. She goes, or I said, all right, so you don't know how to do this. That is absolutely true. Remember to what I said earlier, to those protective parts of you that have cultivated this learned sense of helplessness, that have had to think that I don't know anything, that I'm not capable of knowing anything, that I'm not capable of learning how to do this, that I'm not capable of applying myself, like all these limiting beliefs. There's a team of parts that we all have, to what I said earlier, that will protect us, protect our belief systems that are BS, bullshit, and that are preventing us from actually being the most empowered version of ourselves. And this 18-year-old man, he's not excluded from this. All of us have this. It's just to what degree. There's this protective team of parts that will make sure that they gang up and have you listen to the only narrative that they believe to be true, despite the objective evidence that if I were to work with you, I would be able to show you writing on the wall that is indisputable, that the parts of you that are what I call the empowering team of parts, who want to see you actualize your best potential, who don't want to have you in this fear and this sadness and this victim mindset, they actually know that evidence is indisputable. Like they're like trying to tell the other team, like, see, I told you, like she knows a few things, right? There's some evidence over here. The world really isn't against us. We do know how to do these things. We actually have a couple levels of resourcefulness, and here's the critical thinking that we know how to put this together. It's like a recipe. I might have not cooked it before, but I know how to put together this recipe. And eventually you put some heat on the oven. It might not come out perfect, but I am capable. I am resourceful. And that's where I think affirmations do get a bad rep, again, because you can't just put them in isolation. But I do believe that there's tremendous power at what I said, separating the proximity of the protective parts of thoughts, where it says, I am not able to speak up. My voice doesn't matter. It's like, yes, that might have been so true. And you're absolutely valid. That might have been so true in your family system growing up. But you carrying that narrative into your jobs, into your intimate relationships, into everything that you're now living in outside of that, that's a you problem. You are carrying that with you by choice. And a lot of people have a hard time, and this is where my intensity does come in and terrify people. And there's love underneath it, and I hope you feel that. We will carry that stuff, those limiting beliefs, into our future. And that literally continues to generate and cultivate the same cycle. Hence, where that the world is against me narrative will continue to perpetuate, instead of the world is conspiring in my favor. Now, that might be a total belief logical leap for you. But what if there was something extremely small that seemed like an actual step away for you, that was believable, that was true for you, that did feel within reach? That's where real progress is made, because that's gaining proximity from the complete narrative that's been twisted around your nervous system, which has been your reality, but that doesn't give you space to grow into a new reality, to unlearn what has not been helping you and what has been maladaptive in your nervous system and your thought processing, your emotional systems for so freaking long. So
you also have to be open and wanting to alternative evidence, because someone might say, okay, what else might be true? and their system of parts is not actually ready yet to see that there is an other truth. So when
I'm
you
going to
go
comment on that and interject. I know that you and I just did an episode on readiness and how that's holding people back. I have to chime in here. It's a decision. And I know what it feels like, quote unquote, readiness. And I'm with you in the sentiment of what you just said, Bianca. However, I do have to hold the line of it is a decision within the team of parts. And more often than not, we do not make that decision because we don't realize it's ours to make. And that's where we want to push in this empowerment. Okay. Thank you for letting me interject. Please continue.
100%. You have to actually want there to be alternative evidence. I think that's why I've been able to grow to the degree that I have. Like, I wanted to know that there was alternative evidence. Now, did I feel ready to actually have there be alternative evidence and then do something about it? No, that was built over time through continuously getting more and more ready. But there has to be a decision in there that I want it to be true that there is other evidence, because I'm actually wanting to do something different. Because a lot of the times what happens, and I very much was like this, my internal narrative, the belief that I had that I'm now uncovering is, if I am actually capable of doing things on my own, then I will be abandoned. Because self-handicapping, in my example, now this is different for other people, but in my life circumstances and my set of experiences, self-handicapping was the only way that I received love at home. So I learned to always be the victim, to always be in a submissive or incompetent place, because my narrative was, if I am capable, then nobody will stick around. So I didn't want alternative evidence because I didn't want to be abandoned. So when I learned that, and over time it's been a continual unlearning of that, I learned that, okay, but if I was going to do it, and if I was capable of doing it without the belief that I'm going to be abandoned, what else might be true? Is it possible that X, Y, and Z is true? Is it possible that I'm actually capable of this? And that is how I continue to get better and better and better, and will continue for the rest of my life. So there's multiple layers in this, and I know we got to start to wrap up, but this is not a one and done. It's an everyday making the decision. Every day I'm going to make the decision to do what I can to see where I am capable. And the more you do that, the more self-belief you developed, and it ends up becoming this reinforcing feedback loop. And if you want to learn more about this, we did a 2-part series on belief a couple of months ago that you can dive into. It was at the beginning of January when this would have come out.
So powerful. You know, I'm just thinking about all, like, let's say, for example, anyone that's listening to this, you have maybe a hero or a heroine that you look up to, that you're so inspired by. And to some degree or another, like I said at the very beginning of this episode, they ran into a similar feeling where they felt like the world was against them. Now you can think about one hero, superhero, or one superheroine that you have that you look up to, admire, someone that you really admire, and how they responded to that moment, that feeling, that thought is ironically, in one way, shape, or form, a part of their story. And so I want to share that reflection or that thought or that imagination because I think it can remind us of the hero and the heroine's journey that we all go through in life, meaning that there are going to be times where we just feel relentlessly punched in the face sometimes and punched in the gut, and we don't feel like we have anything left in us because the world just absolutely feels like it's against us. I can't tell you how many times I've heard when it rains, it pours, aka the abdication of one's own self-efficacy and one's own self-belief to pull themselves back up and try to change what the world is for them. And how they feel like the world is this force that helps them move through that journey on their own accord. And I think it's just an exciting time where now we are able to more than ever access information of people that are incredibly well educated and look at our heroes and our heroines that at one point or another inspired us. And then I want you to take that and pair it with a quote, the classic quote about art of what you see as beautiful in the world is a representation of what is beautiful within yourself. And I want you to take that quote and pair that with that because you are on your own hero. You are on your own heroine journey, and you are on a journey such that you get to write the story. You get to change the narrative that you listen to, that you write, that you literally can and will look back on one day in your life to this young man where you get to realize, man, 18 years old between 0 and 18, that was fucking brutal. Absolutely. No one's going to take that away from you. All right. Now what happened after? And let's say, for example, you're not that 18-year-old listening to this. You are at 50 years old and whatever point that you're listening to that, do not forget that there is a person deep inside of you before all of this shit came onto you, and your future is spotless when you actually do something about these moments, these feelings, these thoughts, these beliefs. And if you are someone that does not have people around you that actually believe that on their own accord and have been through it and proven to themselves that that's possible, then please, please, please get in the Evolve Venture Society, get around people at Evolve, because we have not only just believed that it's possible, we have evidence and stacks of it that it is possible and possible for you, possible for people just like you. And I just hope that you see the glory that's on the journey ahead when you embrace your more empowering beliefs and your empowering part of teams, because I've seen people totally turn it around, and it's given me hope for the world. It's given me hope to continue to do what we do. And so if that is you, I invite you, I challenge you, whatever gets your engines going to move through that journey with us and have us with you. So with that being said, my episode suggestion in closing is 226, the effective tools for dealing with challenges, again, to the gut punches and face punches that we all have as human beings. Bianca, closing thoughts and final episode suggestion.
226. Holy hell, that's an oldie.
Whoa.
Wild.
Yeah. Had to throw it to him.
448, what real validation looks like. As someone who was a victim, who believed I was a victim, I wasn't a victim, I believed I was a victim, there is a way out. And yes, it's gonna be hard. And yeah, you're gonna have to put effort in. And it's gonna be worth it. Because when you can wake up and sincerely believe that I am capable of creating the life that I want, I am capable of getting outcomes that matter to me, your entire world changes. You have so much more opportunity in front of you. The world really does become your oyster, as corny as that sounds. The more belief I've developed, the more I've sincerely felt like this world is here for me and it's not happening to me.
Nice. Freaking love that.
It was possible for me. It's possible for you. We've helped so many clients do this. So don't just take our word for it. It is possible.
Go to the website, go hear from people that we've changed their lives, who literally before us had no hope. in the future. So as always, thank you, dear listener, for your interest in the holistic mental health, all the good science around that and wellness. We appreciate you joining, and please continue to stay tuned to more episodes. We have so much fun things coming down the pipeline, and we appreciate you, as always, joining us today.
Bye, everybody.